Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwa, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'll introduce the members of the panel. In the meeting room is Mr. Robert Upton. Joining us remotely is Ms. Faye Branson. My name is Stu McPherson. I'll be chairing the hearing. The secretary for today's hearing is Mr. Jason Robertson, and representing the Assessment Taxation Department is Mr. Matthew Barocas. Excuse me. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application. We'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council. It's independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they so wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave and the process will repeat for each item on the docket. The session will close after all applications have been heard. The board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. Just as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 2 through 8 on our docket today. Mr. Robertson, would you please affirm the assessor and the applicant?
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Matthew Stephen Barocas.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Henry Dupont.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Dupont. You're here representing the owners for 7 properties today. We're dealing with the amount of assessed value in each case, and for items 4 and 8, there's 3 points of appeal. I guess we'll address those when we get to those particular items, unless it's just the amount of assessed value we're dealing with.
So what's the
4 and
points
8
of
are
appeal?
liability and classification on items.
Oh, okay.
We'll deal with it when we get to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go in order that we have on our agenda. So the first item we'll hear is 555 Ellis, which is number 2 on our docket. So when you're ready, Mr. Barocas, we'll hear from you, please.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. File 22-1066, rule number 1305069250, 555 Ellis Avenue. It's a Manitoba housing property. We've got 2 classifications for valuation. Primary usage is it's an apartment for the April 1st reference date of 2021, 7,937,000. And then we also have some commercial space as well. We have that valued at 1,051,000 for a total of 8,988,000. 6 stories, 1 building. So on Ellis, it's got a 10-year effective age. I'll get into that a little bit later on. 118 suites, 37 outdoor parking spots. On page 2, pardon me, they've been good in handing their mailers in. No recent sales. Page 3, it shows the comparable, or rather the income workup for both apartment and retail. So you can see we've got the model derived rents with modeled vacancy and expenses cap rate. Generates our estimated market value. Our net operating income for the apartment is $432,541. I believe it's exactly the same as the applicant, so I'm not going to dwell on the income and expense part on the 20T stream. So we've got a breakdown on page 4 showing that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commercial units on record, and our rents are around the $14 to $15 amount. $701 rent assigned by the model on the apartment side of the coin. Got rent comparables on page 5. You can see that we're below the comparables at bottom end of the range. However, you can see that's a lot of bachelor units, and because our net operating income for this income stream is in agreement, I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. Next page shows CMHC calculations. I did using the CMHC tables for zone, year of construction, and structure size broken down as it pertains to the suite count and how it relates to the property. You can see if you go to page 7, when you look at the averages and you combine the averages and you worked out what it would be with the units, you can see that we're about 17% lower than market. Bottom end of the column, Manitoba housing, it's high bachelors, it makes sense. Tables on page 8 follow where I got the data from. Comparable leases in the neighborhood here. They're all on, 3 of them are on Ellis, 1 is on Notre Dame, and you can see that they are in the range from $12 to $16. So they bracket the rents assigned by the model on the commercial. So I didn't make a change on that side of the coin. Cap rate on page 10. I'm sure you've probably heard this already, but I'll go through it again. These are an example of some sales that I pulled from a list of the sales bidding for association, vetting for if they were purchased not for their net operating income. So these sales were good with good 3-year mailers. I was able to stabilize and determine a capitalization rate based on sale price and the net operating income. So you can see here, they range from 3.6 up to 5.74. So when we're looking at the range, the city has these sales support that. Again, these aren't meant to be comparables specific to this subject property. This is the same table that's going to be bolted on to all the properties on the docket today. So this is just an example of real world calculated cap rate sales being in line with the range of the market. Carrying on to page 11, you can see here how multifamily on the 1, 2, 3, 5th column down, the 20th and 80th percentile, 4.8 to 5.6. When you look at the cap rate sales, the majority of them range from 4.77 to 5.74. From that one outlier there on St. Mary's is much lower. So there you go. Municipal Act excerpts on page 12. You've seen before. Page 13. This property had a whole lot of renos lately. 2 2015 in May. They did exterior and interior alterations. They demolished a circular front entrance and constructed a new squared off entrance, reconfigured office space, placement of all exterior windows, doors, interior alteration, including upgrading mechanical, electrical. They renovated 5 units to become mobility access, widening and replacing all suite entrance doors, cosmetic work, updating the kitchen on the main floor. So they've done a bunch of work, and that was about $5.3 million as per the declared construction value. What's the assessments? Overall, the total assessment right now is just shy of $9 million. So, I mean, they've, relative to the overall valuation of the property, they did pump quite a bit of money into it. It seems like they did pretty much everything. I haven't inspected this property. I wasn't able to find pictures, but I'm just going off the closed, quite substantial permit here. So you can see on page 14, it's just an example, pic of the outside. You can see that it looks like it's in good condition. Looks like there are some newer windows in there. Exterior looks good. And you can see building structure renovated in 2015. So yes, subsidized rents available. That's why we don't use their actual reported rents. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
Yes. Your cap rates, residential cap rates, I guess I have to find the page now.
Page 10, I think you're looking for.
Yeah, page 10, yeah, I got it. Do you show your work up for any of those comparables?
We do have the 2390 McPhillips and a rebuttal document that is coming forward. I know in the past, actually, I think Corden as well is also in the rebuttal. That's something we agree on. And actually Maryland, they're in the rebuttal, but for St. Mary's, Bertrand and Arden, they're not in the brief now.
700 St. Mary's, we had checked the property manager, and they had stated that they had been bought with the intention to renovate, and that there had been very low repair maintenance in that property in the past. So in your analysis, did you find out how much repair maintenance was in that building?
I would have gone and stabilized that. I can get you an answer for that. Are you looking at like on the years leading up to the sale? I take it.
Yes.
I'll look for it as you ask me more questions, and then I will have an answer for you. Or we could stop here and I could find it for you. That's not a problem. Cap rate. St. Mary's.
Excuse me.
And while you're at it, you can tell me the rent that it has. Is it the low rent also?
Yeah, so the repair maintenance was low. It was at 400 on average, 449 per unit. And the rent that was being used, an effective gross rent of 81,155 for effective gross rent. And they had some laundry on top of that making it the effective gross income 82,303. The overall expense ratio on my stabilization was 54.67%.
So would you agree that $400 per suite repair maintenance is much lower than normal?
Yeah, would you agree that?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay.
So would you agree then this property is an oddball, mainly because it has such low repair maintenance, and that somebody would buy that for the intention to renovate?
Well, I mean, that's something they would consider. I know you have a couple properties in your cap rate study that have really low repair and maintenance as well. That might fall into that same category. So maybe we can both agree on it.
No, 203 Bertrand's a 9-suiter. So would you agree that the small properties like that are less reliable than properties with more suites?
I'm not sure. Maybe by less reliable, could you maybe elaborate on that?
Because there may be mom and pop purchasers which don't know too much about too much knowledge of the market.
Well, I mean, it would certainly, like with the smaller properties typically are worth less. No, they're not worthless, but they're worth less money. So you get bigger pool of investors. Like you said, you can get mom and pop in there. So with more potential purchasers, more competition, the price is going to be higher. You would think that they would have a lower cap rate because there's more demand. But I don't think reliability, I wouldn't frame it as a reliability thing. I would just think it's just more accessible.
32 Arden, we had filed rebuttal in the past, and sorry, I don't think I did this time. And it was brought to your attention that they had laundry missing in the year prior to the sale compared to the previous 2 years. Have you checked that or adjusted for that?
That on the top of my head, I don't recall. I just remember the parking being an issue, but I'll have to double check that.
Laundry.
Yeah, the laundry. I'll have to double check the laundry thing. I know the parking count was something that we disagreed on, but I'd have to follow up on the laundry aspects. Cap rate study. Okay, I'd have to find my old Altus rebuttal to find out how I restabilize that. I'll have an answer for you, but it would take some digging. I'm on a different computer and everything's kind of moving around.
I'm sorry. So what is the question, Mr. Dupont, on 32 Arden, whether the laundry has been accounted for in determining the cap rate?
That's correct. Because
Okay.
the owner had stated that he had his sister collect the laundry income, and the property was managed by Sussex, and Sussex did not report laundry income because the owners basically was picking that money up himself.
Okay. What do we have here? So for that one, so for 2018, which was the year before, they didn't report any laundry income. It just said, I just had it down as included. The laundry for 16 was 1,880, and the laundry for 2017 was 2,240. So average, it's around the $2,000 mark. Yeah, so it's a little bit of income that didn't get accounted for, if that is the case. In the Altus remarks, it said laundry included in rent. So I just went with what you guys said initially.
No, we checked into that, and laundry is usually not included in rent.
Mhm. No, that would make sense. I just initially went with what Altus indicated on when this property was in your cap rate study.
And the previous hearing, we had the rebuttal showing that the purchaser was advertising it as recently renovated. And I believe you had checked into that and you had agreed that it was bought with the intention to purchase, to renovate.
It said renovations, that's not something we agree with. As per the Altus remarks, because I copied them down in my old rebuttal, renovations of 90,426 in 2008 and 497,913 in 2009, exempt rent control May 2009. Variant age due to reno. So it was recently renovated, but it was renovated before the sale.
So you mentioned some old renovations, but the present owner is talking about recent renovations. So it would not be what happened in 2008 or 2009.
No, I don't believe so. I mean, they can advertise, I would say for a building that was built in 1985, putting almost $600,000 worth of renovations between 2008 and 2009 qualifies as recently renovated. If I was selling the building, I would definitely advertise it as recently renovated. That doesn't mean it was renovated a month ago. It just means it's been recently renovated. It's not actually it's 1969. It's got an effective year built of 1985, pardon me, on that property. So no, we don't have any record of renovations after the sale or any renovations occurring after the renovations in 2008 and 2009. So we don't have any indication of that. So all records indicate that when they're saying recently renovated, they are referring to that time period.
So you agree with Matt's that 2008 is in fact 14 years prior to today, 2022?
I do agree with the math, yeah.
And you say 14 years, it means recent.
Relative to its lifespan, yes. And I looked into it. I wasn't able to find any sort of other renovations that were done. We don't have any record of it. So when was the last renovation done? And you know where I'm getting this information? I'm getting this information off of Altus remarks when this property was in your cap rate study.
Oh yeah. We did say it had been renovated in the past, 2008, 2009. And we found out in rebuttal that it had been recently upgraded by the vendor, by the purchaser, that the purchaser was saying that. So that,
Well,
sure, we agree with 2008, 2009 renovations, but not the fact it's recently renovated.
when was it recently renovated?
The ad just says recently renovated.
But could that not easily, if you were selling your, 1969 building, refer to the fact that when someone walks in, they can see that it's no longer 1969 on the inside? If I was trying to advertise, I would put recently renovated. There's no statute of limitations on the word recent in terms of renovation. So I think we just disagree on that point. I think there would need to be evidence, permits or something after 2009 showing a bit more than just someone who's trying to get drum up attention to sell their property.
Okay, can we move on from that, please?
Yes. Your comparable rents, page 9 for the commercial. So what kind of properties is that, like 405 Ellis? Can you say if it's part of a strip mall or where it is? Or
Yeah, I didn't, I just picked a couple comps. I saw that they were on Ellis. Let me get back to my brief here so I can at least have them in front of me. Just was looking for similar size commercial units in the general area. I do believe they're all main level as well. The rents, the leases are signed fairly recently, other than the first one, of course. The first one's a pretty old lease. But I didn't, to be honest, do too much diving into this one, that part of my brief. So I don't have an answer to that question.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, questions for the assessor?
Sorry, no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Upton, questions for the assessor?
Yes, you said your cap rate you used on the apartment portion was 5.45.
Let me check here.
5.45.
That would be correct, yes.
You derived that from your page 10.
No, that's model driven. Page 10 is just a list of sales where I did 3-year stabilization to try and substantiate the meat of the distribution, the 20th, 80th percentile.
Right.
And these are the sales I came up with. So no, the cap rate's modeled though.
Cap rate is strictly model. Also on the store portion, the cap rate is model.
Yeah, it's just modeled.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. The variant age 1979 to 1989, is that an observed age or is that a calculated age?
Well, I know it's in regards to the permit on page 13. I wasn't the one who issued the adjustment, so it's meant to take into account the renovations. So I take it someone probably went down there and took a look at the permit.
Probably
Just-
an observed
Yeah,
age.
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay. And where is this property on Ellis? What are the cross streets? Do you know?
Oh yeah. Hang on. Ellis. So this is Ellis and between Langside and Furby.
Okay. And your commercial component, you got 5,995 square feet. What was the overall cap or overall rent rate that was applied to that? Did you give us the overall?
Oh yeah, that would be on page 4. On a per unit basis, the model assigned net rents between $14.30 and
Right.
$15.43.
So what is the average?
The average, I mean, okay. I would say looking at that, the average is probably around $15, roughly.
Okay, and everything else is, it's all model driven.
It's model driven.
Okay. I thank you. Mr. Dupont, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Okay, so the first page, I have the what we're seeking in relation to what the assessments are. So we're asking for a reduction in both residential and commercial. Then we have the photos, and you can see the window flaps are open, which would indicate no air conditioning. Most rental housing has no air conditioning. So then the next photo, bottom 3, the city McMicken goes right through the building in the middle. You can see that. Relatively unusual. Another photo in the back shows some of the parking in the back, as well as the sort of inside of the underneath the over McMicken Street. It shows that. So that, and then the other side, it has no parking on that side. So the rear east side shows patio and no parking. Then we have aerial photo page 9. So it shows there that the side street is Langside on one side, Furby on the other. So there's 18 stalls in total that we counted. Then we have the maps. We can skip to the income approach. Well, actually, we go to cap rates first. So the cap rate, page 15. So based on our cap rate study, which I'll do after this, we use a cap rate 5.75%. So this property is 1989 high rise, so it would fit under what we have here, 6 plus 5 1/4. That would be our base rate. So without adjusting for site specific factors, we would be using 5 1/4. However, for this one, the factors are shown. There's social housing, no amenities, no AC. So it's a big thing to have no air conditioning. And it has no history of economic profits. The condition would be inferior, even though they have renovations. It's still to low quality usually, because Manitoba Housing cannot give luxury or spend lots of money to make it luxurious. Suite mix is poor. 88% of the suites are bachelors. Parking is poor because it has only 15% parking. So the cap rate we choose 5.75. We show the market cap rates, which I believe Matt also had in his brief. So Colliers will show us 5 to 6%, CBRE 5 1/4 to 5.75. That's for low rise A, B. High rise Colliers is 5 to 6. CBRE will have high rise B 5 to 5.5. And Cushman is lower. So based on that and my cap rate study, we believe the cap rate to be applied is 5 3/4. The next page is the income approach. You can see that we agree with the assessor's GGI expenses and NOI. So line 34, that's our dispute. The cap rate 5.75 is just 5.45. Here's a value of $7,522,000. Then we go to retail, the next page. Oops, got to rotate. We dispute the rent only. We don't dispute the cap rate. So we also obtained some comparables analysis. And so we have first 3 are analysis 1257 and 8. Then we have another one, Milstegel 9, and one in McDermott 8.67. Average 9.03, medium 8.67. So we use $10 for our calculations. We continue to use non-recovered expenses. That means we use 7% total versus the assessor, which is usually 2 or 3 only. So there are income approaches summarized here. So if you apply $10, you apply 995 square feet, you get 59,000. Rent, we apply the assessor's parameters to the rest, we get 674,000. I do have verbal rebuttal to Matt's comparables, if I can give it now.
No, we'll Let's have the questions first, and then we'll have the rebuttal.
Okay, so I would like to go to our retail cap rate, if you don't mind. Non-retail apartment. So if you can find my cap rate report at the beginning in the first
Yeah,
second
just-
page, we sorry.
Yeah, just give us a moment here, please.
It'll be labeled item 0 for your SharePoint. There's,
The applicant apartment cap rate study, is that where we're going?
yeah, there's 2 parts for the applicant one. There's the main and appendix A through C, and then he's got a separate one for appendix D.
Okay, and which one are we referring to, Mr. Dupont?
The first one, A.
Thank you. Is
Uh,
everyone there? Everyone's got that?
Are you on retail cap rate?
no, the apartment cap rate.
Okay,
The expand it here. That's appendix D. So it's the other one.
which appendix is it?
We're on appendix A through C. So you're on the other one. It's not this one. It's a different document.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a different document. Yeah. Here. So make it easier for you to see. That's the one.
Okay. Thank you.
So page 2 would be the market reports from Colliers, CBRE, Cushman, etc., which we went through already in our evidence. It's part of the body of our own report. We compared them page 5 also to the previous cycle. We had settled, and the 2020 cap rates were settled, and that was actually me and Matt that settled that last time around. And then page 6 is our comparables. So we have Corden, 555 Corden, 677 Maryland. In common with the assessor, we're virtually in agreement on these two. 2390 McPhillips, we show 5%. We used a pro forma and that they had, and that pro forma indicates 5%. Matt's got the 2 years of financial statements, which we don't have. And then we have 5 more. The Laveranderie Lakeside Ward was a newer property, sold 2016. The cap rate on that 5.07. 718 Beach, it's a smaller property, but built 1914, 5.39, and 100 Southview, also a newer property, built 1914, 5.59. Then after that, we have the summary as to what cap rates we're using. Then we show the city's cap rate samples for the same year built, etc. They have credit variance, so they're not very consistent. Possibly small suites of lower cap rate, but sometimes it's not. So depending on what property we bring to the board, we may be agreeing with the assessor's cap rate, or we may be fighting them, depending depending how they had to establish it. So if you go to Appendix D, the second part will show our workup on each one of those cap rates. I don't want to belabor that, except that we have worked a workup on each cap rate. We show the evidence that we have that we rely upon, and we show our stabilization and how we arrive at the cap rate. So now there's difference between the assessor and Altus, and we may do different adjustments we may take the same property and do it differently. Then we should take in mind the market reports. To see they give a range of 5 to 6 or whatever. That is fairly good indication so that our cap rates, both the assessor and myself, we should have cap rates are in the range of the broker reports. So I'm not going to go to a retail cap rate now because this property, we do not dispute the retail cap rate. So that would be my evidence. I'm open to question that I can give rebuttal on essential comparables.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Barokas, questions for the applicant?
Yes. I mean, I'm gonna cover most of it in regards to my cap rate rebuttal, but just I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. So looking at this property, when you assigned the 5 3/4 cap rate on this property, had you inspected the property?
No.
Were you aware that in 2015, at the time of assigning the cap rate, that they had done work around the $5 million, valued at the $5 million mark as per the permit I presented?
Yes.
You were? Okay. So when you said earlier in your presentation, I believe that because it's Manitoba housing, they're in rougher condition. In light of the $5 million permit, would you still say that comment applies in regards to this property?
Yes. Even though it's new money poured in, they will never put luxury items like quartz countertops or anything like that. They would still keep it at the a lower quality finish. It still has no air conditioning. It still has 88% bachelor suite. They did not change that. They cannot change the parking. There's still only 15% parking. They did not change that. And it is still social housing with no amenities. There again, the government cannot put same amenities as you may have in private apartments.
Okay. And just in regards to, I think it's your page 15 here. So for 99 plus, you've assigned the same cap rate as a property from 1980. Do you think that a property built in 1980 and a property built in 2018 have the same level of risk to them?
No, there should be some graduations at all time, but in this particular case, we have a graduating from the pre-1946, and we graduate in with some categories. We have 2 categories the same, similar to the cap rates that me and you settled for 2020. We had the same type of categories.
Okay. And then just one last question, because it's mostly cap rate rebuttal. Just in regards to, would you say that the rents are below market to reflect the suite mix and condition and composition and area? Would you agree with that statement?
That the rents that the city and Altus applies?
Yeah, are comparatively compared to like for-profit units, would you say that they're below market rents?
No, I believe $700 for a bachelor suite in the West End with no parking, etc., is relatively high. So we did not dispute your market rents, but there's no way that you can say that's a low rent.
All right, I'll just save the rest for rebuttal. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bronson, any questions?
Mr. Dupont, can you remind me the amount you're seeking for a total assessment on this property?
First page. Total. So I have the two, some 532 for CC20 and 674 for commercial. You want me to add that up?
Sure.
8,226,000.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Thank you. Mr. Upton?
I have
Questions?
no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Mr. Dupont, you had some rebuttal?
Yes, I forgot to mention that I do have some precedents from the municipal board on social housing. We have decisions from the board where they gave a premium for properties that had social housing. So page 24, etc. 23, 24, starts at page 22. Those are board precedents on that. So we have the site-specific factors that it has, like suite mix and parking, etc., and the fact that social housing usually warrants a higher cap rate. So now you're, forget what you asked me, Mr. Chairman.
You had mentioned that you had some rebuttal. when you
Oh,
were-
yes, yeah,
presentation.
yes.
Mr. Dupont, have you submitted any of that, like as via email to us? Or
No, it's verbal.
okay,
598 and 602 are in the strip mall. It's a relatively modern strip mall. So it would be Superior. 602 Ellis is a Vietnamese restaurant. So it's a restaurant that normally has higher rents. 405 Ellis. That's a doctor's closer into the downtown. That's all I have to say on his comparable rents.
Okay. Mr. Barocas, did you have any questions on Mr. Dupont's rebuttal?
Have any of these units been renovated, like as recent as 2015?
For the subject,
For the comparables,
which comparables are you talking about now?
Well, I believe, Mr. Dupont, your rebuttal evidence, you were just basically
Oh,
specifying
okay,
what
yeah.
properties they were.
Okay, he's just questioning me in my rebuttal.
Right.
Okay, no, I don't know very much except for the locations of the properties, and that's what I gave as rebuttal. Yeah.
that's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, any questions on the rebuttal?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Upton, any questions on the rebuttal?
No, I don't. Thank you.
And I have none. Thank you. Mr. Barocas, you had some rebuttal evidence?
Yeah, I have my cap rate rebuttal. It should be sent in.
Mr. Robertson, is that item 00 A and T rebuttal?
yes,
Okay, let's just give everyone a moment to get there, please.
Mr. Dupont, did you receive that as well?
I believe so. I have to find it though.
It's a 34-page document, is that right, Mr. Barocas?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
I'll have to go to emails to find it.
Would it be easier if it was resent, Mr. Robertson? Is that something that could be done quickly?
Sure.
If you would then, please, if you just resend it to Mr. Dupont.
Henry, I just resent you the rebuttal.
Okay, I'm waiting for it. Okay, got it.
Okay. Mr. Brokus, when you're ready, you may proceed.
Okay,
First, before you do, is this a new document or has this been presented before?
this has been presented before, and
Okay.
I'll be as succinct as possible. I'm not going to go line by line. I know we are on the first property, but I'm only going to go through this once.
Right. Right. I think we're spending more time on this first property, and a lot of the issues and information will carry through the rest of the
Yes,
year.
yes, 100%.
Please proceed then.
Okay, thank you. So first page is just the title. So basically what it is, page 2, you can see how essentially, like Henry mentioned, we often don't agree on stabilizations. So as a result, Altus and the city of Winnipeg have different cap rates for the same property. So the first property of note here is 2390 McPhillips. Altus had 5%. We had 4.79. So if we go to page 3, you can see I had the pro forma, the three-year workup leading up to the October sale. The expense ratio is 37.11%. It's right in line with what the 3-year expenses were leading up to it on a stabilized basis. I used the actual income in place. It calculated to about 4.79. So we had the actual workup. It's a newer building. It took place in the COVID-19 pandemic. The city of Winnipeg delayed our reference date a year to take this into account. So when looking at new buildings, given the economic climate at the time, interest rates dropping, housing market as an example going up, showing how the real estate market was being pushed by these low interest rates, you can see that for newer builds where we're seeing closer to 5% are now, they're dipping below the 5% mark. So that comes out to 4.79. On the next page, I just cut and paste the Altus workup on page 4. And you can see Altus, they based it on a pro forma. They didn't have, I don't believe they had the income and expenses like we had. So they don't have any workup. And basically what it said in the ad, you can see in their brief, it was that they just said, oh, it's 5%. Well, when you actually look at the 3 years, it's not 5%. It's more like 4.79, 4 3/4 for a big new building. My mailers, not my mailers, the mailers are on page 5 to 8, actually 5 to 10, showing I got my numbers from. So page 11 is the next property we actually agree on. There's a small difference in regards to laundry calculation, but it's essentially 5 3/4. No disagreement there whatsoever. Maryland, the 1913 that was renovated. We just have a disagreement in regards to repair, maintenance, stabilization. The building was renovated in 2013 as per the sales listing. Following the renovation, usually there's a few years of lower repair and maintenance. That's why I used the 18-19 average on repair and maintenance, and I'll just use a 4-year. At $1,000 per unit, I think that's pretty normal going forward for a renovated 1913. And you can see their work up there at 885. I just think 1,000 is more reasonable. 210 St. Mary's, again, difference in stabilized repair and maintenance. Second. So for 210 St. Mary's, we didn't count the lower the high year. There's 2016 where they only spent $959. We didn't count the high year either, 23,000. Just counted the more normalized years. They came up to 745. Altus stabilized at 388 per suite. So I know I was questioned earlier on this property about the suitability of lower repair and maintenance per unit stabilizations. At 449, well, here's an example where Altus is included. Extremely low repair and maintenance in their workup. They got to the number of 618. You'll never see 338 on the subject property side of the coin. 512 Balmoral, it's we're deeming it unusable. This is what's attached here is the sales mailer submitted by the vendor. Basically on line 32 on page 18, they indicated that the purchase price was not based on the property's net operating income. So they were looking at something else. So if we're doing a calculation, looking at the net operating income on the sale price, if that calculated cap rate is not, it's indicated it's not connected to the sale price, then how can we use the calculated cap rate? There's a disconnect there. They're not associated. That being said, the city still, stabilized the R&M at 800 a unit. Altus used 432. So again, this is another example of them using a super low R&M. I thought 800 was more reasonable, taking the most recent year. Page 215, Laverne Dry. Again, we have disagreement in regards to the repair and maintenance on this property. So Altus estimated at 800 a unit. I'm not sure what that's totally based on. We just took the 3-year average, or rather the 4-year average. Altus also in their workup with that low R&M calculated 25% expense ratio. When do you ever see that? Ours still calculated a low expense ratio at 34%, but it's more in line with the recent performance of the property. So I would give ours more weight. Page 23, 277 Langside, it's unusable again. Purchaser indicated on page 24, line 32, that the purchase price was not based on the property's net operating income. Therefore, the calculated cap rate and the actual sale price, they're severed, they're not connected. You can't derive any weight from that. Page 27, getting back on track, we actually agree, which is great. 5.07, and this is an old sale back in 2016 of a newer build. It's probably the closest to the first comparable, 2390 McPhillips at around 5%. 2390 McPhillips at 4.8. It makes sense. So I'm not sure how Altus has 5.25 for the 99 plus cap rate when they've got two caps around 5 and one below 5%. I just don't see the connection there. 718 Beach, this one's in Elmwood. It is built in 2014 and sold, so it didn't have a whole lot of information after it was built. You know, like a renovated property, after a property is built, there's typically a couple years where the repair and maintenance are lower because everything's brand new, and you're going to have a little renovation, maintenance and repair holiday rather. So you can see their maintenance and repair was only 1,015, then going up to 2,200 in 2016. I put an estimation of 1,000 on it. I think on a go-forward basis, that's more reasonable that a vendor would expect on a long-term basis. And then, you know, Altus had 500 units. So again, there's that low R&M in a cap rate study. I know. So, and I also on page 30, I went and actually looked and saw that, you know, after the extending the years out after the sale, they were averaging about $1,000 per unit after a couple high and low years. And then the last thing is, on page, pardon me, page 32. This is the declaration for the purchaser for Beach. It said that was the purchase price based on the property's net operating income? Yes. If yes, what was the capitalization rate you assumed you purchased the property at? And they indicated 4.5. So they're assuming a 4.5 cap. I calculated a 5.0 cap with $1,000 per unit R&M estimation. Maybe they're assuming more. I don't know what they're assuming, but I'm saying it should be around 5 based on my experience. And the last property, we're just, Altus has Southview. It's basically like a bunch of single detached houses stuck together. So it's not really applicable to like a more traditional apartment that have higher repair and maintenance. It's an entirely different investment. That being said, we don't have any mailers on record. So all we have, you know, Altus used the pro forma, which calculated 21% expense ratio. I don't know where that exists in reality, but often you'll see that the realtor pro forma and the actual performance of the property don't line up. The realtor is incentivized to advertise the property in a good manner. The mailers should be weighted, and absence of mailers, in my mind, excludes the property from analysis. So just going back to the page 2, you can see that right at the top there, that there's some difference in stabilization, calculates some differences in the cap rates. Some are more than others, and then there's a few properties we're saying can't be used. Arden was previously in Altus's cap rate study. It's not in there anymore, but we have it in ours. So that's my rebuttal.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessment rebuttal?
No questions. Maybe in when the closing statements, I'll address that.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, any
No
questions?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Upton? Just clarification for me. You said that a couple of these, well, 3 of them were unusable, 2 of them for the reason that the purchaser stated that it wasn't based on the net operating income on the sales mailer. Was there ever a follow-up there from the department to find out what it was based on?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. All right, desire for summation, Mr. Brokus? On this part?
Well, I mean, the rents that are sitting on this property, we're sitting at about, 82%, 83% of what the CMHC table is calculating. We understand that they're bachelor suites, but that's taken into account. We understand that it's Manitoba housing. So that's why we set the income quality in our model below average or below the rent comparables as well. So we're taking the fact that it's Manitoba housing and it, perhaps it gets a bit rougher, a bit quicker, if you know what I mean, into account to then add a cap rate premium on top of that. In our mind is double adjusting. So I believe our valuation is fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, summation?
Yes, so we have 10 cap rates, and there's 4 newer ones. 2390 McPhillips, 333 Ward, 718 Beach, 100 Southview. And so we put all 4 together. It does indicate 5.25 cap rate. And Matt and I settled at 5.25 cap rate for 2020. And then his rebuttal, where he adjusts the repair and maintenance differently than I do. Anybody can do that. Then I disagree strongly with some of them. He's using much higher repair maintenance than actual, which is should not be done. Then he relies on questionnaires that saying did you rely on net income of the property, and or they ask what the cap rate is. We never rely on a purchaser's cap rate. If they say 6% or 5 or 4.5, we don't rely on that. So there's just background information, doesn't tell you much. And they may say I did not rely on net income because they were intending to renovate, maybe change it to net income, or maybe they were looking on a per door basis. But in the end, they have an income stream, and they had to calculate it on the income stream. And our job is to calculate a cap rate based on the income stream and not on the per door basis, because that's a direct comparison approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that property took a little bit of time. We've got another 7 to deal with, or 6 to deal with. I'm confident that the others will go a little quicker. We've dealt with some major issues that I think will apply to them all. Do we have a desire for a short break at this time, or do we want to forge ahead? Does anyone need a 10-minute break? You know,
I'm running low on coffee, so either now or after
Okay.
the next one. The
Okay.
next one will be fine.
let's have a 10-minute break at this point, please, Mr. Robertson. It's 8:16 now, so let's be no later than 8:30. Let's try and make it 10 minutes. But thank you. I'll call the meeting back to order, please. The next item we have to deal with is number 3 on the docket, which is 475 Sargent. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you, please.
Okay. One moment. Just double checking something. Okay. 475 Sargent. File 22-1599. Roll number 1305191350. It's another Manitoba housing property, 2 classifications. We've got an exempt institutional portion that's not in dispute. And then we have the apartment portion, residential 2, that is in dispute. 1987 effective year built and actual, 50 suites, 39 outdoor parking spots. In and around the same area that the last property was in. Just glancing ahead, the applicant and the city both have the same net operating income on the residential side. So it is a cap rate disagreement, which we've gone over extensively in the first property, so I won't go over it again. Page 3 just shows the workup. 50 units, 36 2, 14 3-bedroom. You can see the modeled workup with our modeled cap 5.45. So page 5 just shows the comparables. We're actually a little bit higher than the comparables in the area, but again, net operating income is not in dispute, so I'm not going to spend too much time with detail on this. You looking at page 6 shows the CMHC workup. We're below average as per the CMHC workup. It's a cap rate dispute on this one. On page 13, we just skip ahead down to that, finishing up the brief. Says in 2000, there's an active, I don't know if it's actually active or not, but there was a permit taken out in a couple months ago, September 26, 2022. Exterior alterations include new exterior windows and doors, ramps, site grading, repair to parking lot, electrical work. That's to the tune of $1.2 million. I haven't driven by this place. They probably would have aimed to get this going before the winter. And we are looking at physical January 1st, 2023. So just keeping this permit in mind, they do have money and they do renovations and repairs and updates when it's necessary. This is an older picture from Google Street View, presumably showing the older windows, the older doors. That's something that's going to be replaced, or it has already been replaced, or they're in the process of it. So cap rate dispute, that's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. What cap rate have you applied?
The model cap rate is 5.45 for the apartment side, and the commercial side is undisputed unless something's changed.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
The building permit, does it say anything about putting central air in there?
No, it does not.
And would you agree that it is no air conditioning?
As far as, well, I could look that up, but if that's what you're saying, I'll take your word for it.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Branson?
No questions, Chair.
Assessor? Thank you. Mr. Upton?
Oh, no questions.
I just have one. What is the cross street here?
Okay. Let me see here. 475 Sergeant is that's Sergeant Balmoral, between Balmoral and Spence.
Okay, thank you. And you said it wasn't in contention, the exempt portion, but why is that exempt?
There's a childcare
Daycare
in there, yeah.
Okay.
Thrive Childcare.
So as far as you know, it's just the grantable residential portion. The NOI is in agreement, and you're 5.54% cap rate.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay, thank you. Mr. Dupont, we'll hear from you, please.
Yeah, so my brief, you'll see the photos, which is similar to Matt's photos. The windows are open, indicating no air conditioning. We have some maps showing, page 4 has the aerial photo, shows that Sergeant and Balmoral. And we have the Google Maps there also. To our income approach, page 9. So our cap rates for this would place the subject at 5.25. And then we have the site-specific factors. We see social housing, no amenities, no AC. Condition would be inferior, parking is poor, 78%. We give it a 0.5% premium. And then this time, I guess, and the income approach is on page 10. So that the only thing we dispute is the cap rate. So I'll show there that 5.75 cap rate million value is 4,408,000. The appendix, we do have something in the first page about the quoting the appraisal journal, low investment grade properties, etc., for low cost quality, and then we have decisions of the municipal board on this, and we highlighted the portion saying the agent referred to that as a low grade residential investment as budget housing, and then the board had given a premium on the cap rate for those particular decisions. So that is just one of the factors that we're saying we should have. Location also is not the best location. So we have an inferior location as well as poor parking, no AC. So that's my submission.
Thank you. Mr. Barokas, questions for the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Upton, questions?
No, none for me, thank you.
And I have no questions. Thank you. Desire for summation, Mr. Assessor?
No,
Not for
Mr.
me.
Thank you, Mr. Applicant.
No, thanks.
Thank you. That'll bring us to 528 Sergeant. This one, Mr. DuPont, you've also filed for liability and classification. Is that something you're going to proceed with?
Let me open. I think I will be withdrawing, if I recall.
Sorry, are you still
I'm
considering it?
still, I'm still
Okay.
trying to open my.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
have
we'll
to
wait
put
for
the
you.
files. I will withdraw. There was a tenant in there that could have qualified, but the tenant is gone.
Okay, thank you. So it's just the amount of assessed value we're dealing with. So, Mr. Assessor, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
okay, thank you. File 22-1734, 528 Sergeant Avenue, 1305-121100. two lines here of commercial, and so there's commercial and residential valuation. 1905 effective year, small effective year built of 1915. There's 16 suites and there's got 10 outdoor parking spots on the record. Got a sale in December of 2013. However, that was for multiple properties, not just this one itself. So I would ask the panel to disregard that in regards to coming up with their consideration. Page 3 shows the workup 10 one bedroom, 2 2 bedroom, 12 units, $609 as per the model, age and area. So we got really low rents on this property. Looks like we got here 61% expense rate with a 5.65 cap, estimated market value for the apartment, 586. Examples of our leases, model lease rates, net rates for units, all in the lower to mid $9 range per square foot. So rent comparables are on page 5. You can see that we are sitting below the range. These are all in the area, Sherbrooke, Agnes. They're older buildings, 1915 to 1930. You can see that they are comprised of one bedroom units. Comparable 2 and 3 also have bachelor units, which would bring their rent down comparatively, and we're still average monthly rent per unit low. One thing I'd like to point out, the gross floor area per unit is higher on our subject property. However, that would also include the retail, the commercial space. So that's not a unit size comparator. So these aren't almost 1,300 on average per unit suites. So that number is inflated. So I didn't put any weight in regards to that row. I just know that's going to be a question, so I'm just clarifying that ahead of time. Comparable leases here on page 6. I was looking for comparable leases that were in the same square footage range. So we've got to find 2 that were in the range, 2 that were a bit higher than the 13, rather than the $11 to $14 range. So we're below that. Again, so cap rate chart follows. Then the mailer here, they're declaring net operating income of $72,069 on page 10 on their most recent income and expense mailer. I believe that would include the commercial income as well. So only $87,888 on the residential income, and we're right there at $84,988 on our effective gross income. So it was just all modeled on this one. And then the last page shows a picture of the outside of the property. I mean, it's an older building. It looks like there must have been something done with the windows, but I don't have any permits or anything in my brief. So all modeled on this one. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
No questions.
Ms. Branson? Any
No questions. No, thank you.
And Mr. Upton, questions?
No, not for me. Thank you.
Okay, I just have the same question. The cross street for this property?
Okay. 528. So it'd be like right by the last one. So this one is between Young and Langside.
Thank you. And this was originally 1905, varied to 1915. Was that done recently, the variant, or?
I'm pulling up the notes now. So and a note from 2014 saying the apartments were in good condition. They've been renovated in recent years.
Okay.
But I don't have any details in regards to what those renovations are.
Okay. And I know that age is one of the factors when you're determining a cap rate, but a 1905 and a 1915 building would probably have the
Yeah,
same adjustment or
they'd
indicator.
they'd be in the same cap rate group. So whatever they did in there probably wasn't a whole heck of a lot.
Right. Thank you. Mr. DuPont, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
If you want to look at my first page, I'll go to the photos and maps. So the first one, and my requested value is different because I sent the revised income approach. I believe the secretary should be providing that to all of
Yeah,
you.
is that your revised value? Is that lower than your original value? Or is it higher?
So I'm asking for a higher residential, 522,000 instead of 452. For the commercial, I'm asking 295 instead of 306. So I think I'm
Right.
going higher overall.
Right. And Mr. Assessor, you don't have any issue with the revised valuation?
I don't have any issue with them
Certainly you'll have some questions. but-
submitting it. Yeah,
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you. Then, Mr. DuPont, go ahead and proceed, and you can incorporate your revised value in your presentation.
Okay, so there's the photo. Then we have another photo. After that, we have 10 parking stalls at the rear at 528 Sergeant, assessed at 538 Young. So when I first looked at this, and I realized there's no parking on the subject property, there's a parking lot right behind. It's the same owner. We have the. We're also looking at that one. We're not filing an appeal on the value, but it should be deducted off the total valuation. So the page 8 that gives you the aerial photos. You can see the building takes the whole lot. So it's a corner of Young and Sargent, and that the then we have the 10 parking and the parking lot. Aerial map, and then we have the map itself. Then we have the assessment 538 Young. It shows there $90,000, 3,071 square feet. And then below that, we have the assessment, the two assessments, 930 and 90,000, right sides. I asked the owner if she would want to merge these two lots. That way they won't get separate assessments and it would be captured. And she's still thinking about it. And if she just changed her mind, I'll be letting the assessors know to merge the lots. But I believe it'd be and to their benefits to merge the lots. So the page 13 is the cap rate. So before 1946, we have 6.1 to 6.66, which is the same cap rate as the assessor had for 2020. And we had settled at that amount for municipal board. Then on page 14, we have the site-specific factors, wood frame to start with. There's no amenities, no AC. So it's At defective age, 106 years old. Conditions inferior. Parking is poor. There's no parking at all, but there's 10 parking in the parking lot, which would be 63% for 16 tenants. Suite mix is fair, 83% one bedroom, 17% two bedroom. Location is inferior also. So then I had the income approach. That's now we can go to the revised income approach. When I did that income approach, I had the overall 2020 assessment, but I didn't have the breakdown between the residential and the commercial. So I had done an estimate in my original valuation. I asked the owner to give me the actual tax bill. I got the tax bill. So I redid the taxes. So at the bottom of the page, I redid the taxes. And then I asked the owner who occupies those 10 spots, because there's 4 commercial tenants and 12 residential. And she stated that normally the apartments use about 5 stalls or 50%. But that changes. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And she also said that their own company, Five Stones, has 3 free stalls. So one of the reasons my value went up is I'm adding $50 a month times 3 free stalls to the income. So if you want to go to income approach, potential gross, we're 87,051, slightly less than the assessor, very close, same vacancy. But we add parking, so we end up with line 13, higher AGI. But the whole exercise here is I do with the Altus commercial, second column to the right, and we have the city commercial beside it. So the city commercial assessor's got 29,000 rent. We have 37,933, which is a gross rent. And then we're using the same vacancy as the assessor. The parking, they had 3820 parking, and their questionnaire says that's $50 a stall. So we allocate 3,000 to the residential, 5 stalls. And then we add the difference, 820 plus 3 stalls for the owner that was free. That makes it 2620. So line 13, the effective gross income is 27,979 for the commercial before the expenses. No, sorry, 40,209, and the assessor got 27. The square footage, top right, shows that the commercial is 20.4%, the total square footage. So we allocate insurance 80% for the apartment and 20% for the commercial. So we use the 2020 insurance times 80% for residential, 20% for commercial. The professional fees, office, etc. We give it all to the apartment. We do 5% management fee for the apartment, and we forgot to put 5% for the commercial. Change my value again, eh? 4209 times so 2010 NOI less for management. So minus plus minus 27 NOI. So my revised NOI is 25,217 divided by 8%, 315, 206. So I'll make it 315. My revised commercial value after adjusting for management. The questionnaires indicate the tenants pay their own utilities, they pay their own repair maintenance, shortfall. We have it. We had 1328, same as the assessor. Parking lot taxes, we calculate taxes at the bottom. We get the tax bill on that. We give 50-50, half the taxes to the residential, half to the commercial. Then we have the actual tax calculation for 2020 at the bottom for both residential, the building, they're showing the calculated there. So then for residential, we divide by cap rate 6.6. We have a value of 567. We deduct half of the parking lot, 45,000, and we get 522,000 value for residential. Then we have the same exercise for commercial. We deduct half the parking lot. So the my revised value is 315 after vacancy, but after deducting the 45,000, 270 is my revised value. Now, if you can go to the questionnaires, I can quickly point out to you. Page 37, it shows the questionnaires. So you had the 3 tenants that are arm's length for 2020 questionnaires. Our rents are $11.58, $12.39, $12. So those 3 tenants come to $12 per square foot. The owner was charging himself $12 also. So that would be correct. No, the owner was showing that he was, as tenant, was paying the taxes, and I'm figuring that they do not be the same as the other 3 arms length. Will be the same, so it's not more expenses paid by the owner themselves. So the cap rate, we were 6.6. Instead of the assessor 5.65, and for the commercial or 8% instead of 7.5 for the assessor. And that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Barukas, questions for the applicant?
Yes, please. So pulling up your work up here. So I'll just, you revised. One thing I noticed about, that seems a bit odd about this property is what they're reporting as their potential gross market rents. It doesn't look like they're pushing the rent on this property. Is this a for-profit property, or do they offer subsidized housing as well?
No, it's for profit.
It's for profit? Okay.
Yes.
Any idea why they wouldn't be pushing the rents at all like a typical for profit would?
I don't agree that they're not pushing, or
just in regards to their potential rent, like they're saying that they're reporting 13,000 in 2018, and they're saying 87,142 and 87,51 from 19 to 20. Like usually a for-profit will give a, you know, rent control increase every year. That's why I'm just wondering if this is an actual for-profit or if there's subsidized housing inside of it.
no, they don't show any subsidy income whatsoever. And we agree on rents to start with.
Yeah.
We're actually a bit higher than your AGI.
Yeah, okay. And I'm just I know I'm not disputing that number, just the nature of the property, just something seems a bit off. I was doing some Googling. The vacancy, there's no vacancy with this property. Is there a waiting list to get into it?
No idea.
Okay. And then your determination of cap rate, you base that on a municipal board agreement from a reference date 3 years prior to this one. Would that be fair to say?
My use is 6.1 to 6.6 for the older properties. You're saying that
Just the
you're referring to-
6.6, what, that's based on what sales? Would that be, what sales in your cap rate study would you derive that 6.6 from?
Nothing in particular. It's graduating the cap rate based on age. And the assessor had 6.1, 6.6 for 2020, and we settled at that municipal board for 2020 also. And I don't see why it would be going down to 5.65, especially because it has a poor location. And then we have other factors that we add on there. So if we went with the 6.1, 6.6 and added extra for the negative factors subject, I could have gone higher than 6.6 and I did not.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Upton?
Just a clarification here, you're asking on the apartment portion, 522,000, is that correct?
Yes,
And on the retail portion, 270?
yes.
Okay, for 792 in total? Yeah, that would be right.
I have to do the math. 522 plus 270, 792, yes.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And your 8% cap rate, what was that based on? For the commercial component?
Yeah, it's well, it doesn't have much parking to start with, and it's a poor location.
Thank you. Summation, Mr. Barukas,
No, thank you.
Mr. Dupont,
No, thank you.
thank you. Let's move on to the next item then, item number 5 on our docket, 853 Sherbrooke. Mr. Sesser, when you're ready.
All right, so let me get it pulled up here. One moment, I'm just trying to hold this on. Okay. All right. File number 22-2005, roll number 13061543000, 853 Sherbrooke. Owner is WHRC. Got 2 lines of value here. Got some small commercial amount, and then we've got the residential amount of 1,331,000 for a total assessment 1,534,000. It's an older building, 1910 with an effective year built 1929. Number of suites 23. We don't have any parking on record. Page 2 shows they've been no issues pending in their mailer. So 11 bachelors on page 3, 12 one bedroom on page 1, 23 units, average monthly rent quite low, 586.97. We've got our modeled work up here, 5 3/4 cap rate. Generates the values for the apartment, and then the restaurant at 7.8. It's all modeled. So for the restaurant, we got 1381. And then on page 5, we've got our rent comparables, shows that it falls within the range. Comparables page 2 and comparable 2 and 4. They do have 2-bedroom units, and you can see that's where their average monthly rent is higher. Also, they're newer as well. That needs to be taken into account on an effective year basis. Comparable 1, comparable 3. They are comprised of 1-bedroom and bachelor units, and they are on an effective year built basis, slightly older, more in line with the actual year built of the subject property. So then those rents, the one on Logan's 586, the one on Cape 538. I believe those are extremely small units as well, if my memory serves. Regardless, moving on to page 6, we've got our CMHC calculations. So I did it by zone, year belts, and structure size based on the tables that were given. It averaged to $820, which in my mind is high on a market basis. I would really put more weight on the year at $682.96, which takes into account the bachelor units and the 1-bedroom, given that it falls in the pre-1940 category. You know, we're assigning it a 586 rent. So overall in the city, that those old buildings with bachelors are at 682. We're sitting here at 853 Sherbrooke. It makes sense, given the nature of the neighborhood, that it would be lower. So it's about $100 lower than the year weighted average at 682. So if I was to redo my calculations for the model potential rent and potential market rent, I actually wouldn't use the 820. I would think 682 would be more appropriate to put in there. However, based on the comparables, I think we're good with our rents and the $100 adjustment down from the overall city average for this unit composition and year built. So I think our rents are good. Commercial leases found on page, comparable lists are found on page 9. So trying to find some restaurant leases. So they range from $9 to $16.46. 445 McPhillips is further away. I wouldn't put any weight on that. Also, the buildings are newer as well. So we are sitting at 1381. It falls within the range. If you look at the commercial rent on page 13 that the owner received, it was $18,041. And if you look at page 4, the model is assigning $18,036. So it's right there with the actuals, so no change was made. Exterior photo of the building on page 14. So you can see it's from Google Map. It looks very much original. It's housing. It's not for profit. We're going with the comps. Rents are low. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Branson?
No questions.
Mr. Upton.
None, thank you.
Just for my education purposes, I guess, rather than anything else, Winnipeg Housing Rehabilitation Corporation, is that a private entity, or is that a public corporation?
I know it's a registered charity, because I was looking into property with another agent for another issue that we were having in regards to classification. But it is a registered charity. As far as I know, registered charities aren't for-profit organizations by nature. So I wouldn't take their actuals so much into account. Let's go to the market.
Right, I noticed on the income statement, there's a CMHC tenant subsidy.
Yeah, it's very small, but still that doesn't appear on for-profit workups or income and expense statements.
Right. Okay, I thank you. Mr. Dupont, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
Well, I can go to photos, and the aerial photo is on page 4. So the lot, the building covers the whole lot, so there's no parking whatsoever. Then if you go to our income approach, or actually the cap rate, so the page 8 for cap rate, we start the cap rate. So that age group, 6.1, 6.6, and then page 9, we refer to the factors that the subject has. So it's with frame also. Social housing, no amenities, no AC, 92 years old, inferior condition, poor, no parking at all. The suite mix, 48.8% bachelors, 52% one bedroom. Bedroom's not bad, but the having so many bachelors is a negative feature. Location is inferior also. So that should be at the top end of the cap rate that we would give, so that we come to 6.6% cap rate in this property. So the income approach itself is next. So the spreadsheet. So the line 3, they're getting 85,000 in rent, and so we agree with the assessor's rent, 162,000. We apply the assessor's vacancy. We take off the average bad debt. Laundry is a credit, and that's what we use. We use a credit, and we use the big bug grant as an income. Probably we should not have allowed that. And we below the miscellaneous income. Now the line 11, commercial income, it shows that the 4 years. The restaurant, Tom Yum Thai restaurant. It's a Thai restaurant. So that the income it has was 18,042, and we have that top right. So we have the last 2 columns. We have Altus commercial. We have the city commercial. So we use the actual 18,042. The assessor is very close to 18,036, but they have it as a net, and it's not net. So we allow for the vacancy. Then the insurance, when we stabilize, we give 94% to the residential, 6 to commercial. And the top right corner of our spreadsheet indicates on the square footage basis is 6.1% is to commercial. And that's how we allocate the some of the expenses. There again, we forgot to put management for the subject. That's 848, so that would make our NOI lower. So at the bottom where we have 10,625, should be 97,77. So our commercial value is 125,000 instead of 136 once we allow for the management. So utilities, we have it all for the apartment owner, the commercial for their own cable, and then actually, no, there's no cable. So the waste and snow, we give that to residential, same security intercom, repair maintenance. We allow we stabilize it less than the 3-year average of 26,308. Then we allowed 814 for the commercial, which is not much. Shortfalls, the repair maintenance at 97%, 3%. Shortfall, we forgot to put the shortfall also. We made a column for shortfall, then we forgot to put it in. Okay. The assessor is at 627, so we should have 627 shortfall. We did the taxes, we calculated the taxes at the bottom, so the previous assessment times mill rate, etc. So the declared taxes 15,992, and we separated that 12,000 for residential, 5,000 for the commercial. So I won't make any more adjustments to the commercial for the shortfall. I'll just leave it as is. So I had adjustment for management, 125,000. I'll stick with that. And the cap rate that we apply to the residential 6.6, that comes to a value of 1,018. So that's my report.
So your total value, Mr. Dupont, is?
$1,142,000.
Thank you.
No, rounding off is 1,143,000. Rounding up, yeah.
Or 153.
No.
The commercial is 136. The apartment is 1,017,000. Is that right?
No, I adjusted the value for management. I had done that earlier.
Right.
So my revised value after management is 125,000. 125 plus 1018 is 1,143,000.
Thank you. Mr. Brokus, questions for the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Branson?
Thank you.
Mr. Upton?
Oh, where's the workup for the restaurant? Where you arrive 125? Where's that? What page is that on?
It's the same page as the apartment. I do the both on the same spreadsheet.
Okay, let me go back to that. Where is that now?
Page 10, the last two columns. The last two columns.
On the far right.
Far right, yeah, sorry. And you see in blue, line 11, the actual income reported on the questionnaire is 18,042, and that's what I put in to start as our commercial.
Okay, just I gotta get back to that just a second. Yeah, I think I know where it is. I can find it. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are in agreement with the commercial cap rate of 7.8%, is that correct?
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay, thank you, but 6.6% on the apartment versus the assessor's 5.75.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Brokus, summation?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, summation?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Move on to item 6, 375 Assiniboine.
All right, one moment.
When you're ready.
Yep.
We'll hear from you, Mr. Silver.
Let me pull this up. Please. Already. 375 Assiniboine Avenue, file 22-1047. 12092600000. 17 stories, built 1977. Cross street on this one, so it's that corner of Assiniboine and Hargrave. So, pardon me, just going back to my brief here. 17 stories, 124 suites, 31 outdoor parking spots, construction class C, masonry bearing walls. It's a Manitoba housing property. Page 3 shows the income value summary. Just glancing ahead to frame the rest of my presentation, it does look like we have exactly the same net operating income. And I don't think there's a dispute on the tax exempt retail portion, if I'm not mistaken. So it's another cap rate issue on it. We've got a 5.25 cap rate as per the model, age, area, and size. Page 4 shows 735.65 on the rent per suite, and for the exempt retail, $13.95 on the unit. Rent comparables are found on page 5. We agree on the net operating income, so I won't go into that. CMHC analysis was done on page 6 to 8. Page 9 shows the comparable leases for the commercial space. 10 and 11 is cap. And then there was some pictures I was able to pull off the internet. So we got some, and in regards to what we had, I believe some of these are from our own inspection. So you can see that there's been some work done to it. At least the inside units show the flooring's been done. The kitchens look like they've been done. You got a backsplash in there. Some appliances, the bathrooms look like they've been refreshed. So it looks like the place is well taken care of. Like housing does refresh the units when they're able to financially. And this looks like it's been done semi-recently. So 77, it's on Assiniboine Avenue. You know, developers, they just, well, it's one of the next properties we're talking about. They just built a big new tower on 300 Assiniboine. Developers clearly think that it's a good area to invest a lot of money in. That there's you know, demand for people wanting to stay down there. It's downtown. I think it's a nice area. I mean, it's not without some challenges, but I wouldn't put it in the same boat as the areas, you know, the Sherbrooke Ellis area that we just were talking about for the past few properties. So I actually think, given the fact that the units have been refreshed as per the pictures, that a 5.25 cap does make sense. We're only using 735 on the rents. To take into account there is a large amount of bachelors that needs to be recognized, and that's something that we do recognize with the lower rents. So no reason to double adjust that on the cap. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we get to the questioning, can you clarify on your page 3, you've got estimated market value for the retail component of 284. And on page 1, you have 323.
Yeah. Well, I know the applicant has 323. I'd have to check the mailer that went out. I could do that for you quickly. Now here, hopefully on this computer, they have that program. It is tax exempt though. Let's see.
It is, but we are dealing with the quantum.
Right. Gonna have to search the computer. I'm on a different computer right now. Of sorts. Not sure why that would be different. I wonder if the tax bill is in the applicant's brief. It's 323. We have it listed as 323 online. I'm not sure why it was generated.
So you're not making a recommendation to reduce that amount?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Branson?
No question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Upton?
No, I have none. Thank you.
Okay. And that was my only confusion on that matter, but Mr. Dupont, we'll hear from you, please.
Yeah, the first page, the photo. There again, you'll see some of the open windows indicating no air conditioning. Then we have the aerial maps, north side of Assiniboine. Aerial photos in the Google Maps, etc. Then if you go to income approach, the cap rate, page 9. So the site-specific factors affecting this property is that the building amenities, it's social housing, no amenities, no AC. It's 44 years old. Condition would be inferior. Suite mix very poor, 72% bachelor suites. Parking is very poor, also at 28% only of the parking. So we give it a 0.5% premium over our cap rate that we would have for that particular age group. So we would have it 5.5 normally, so we're at 6%. So the page 11 is the income approach. You'll see that we have the same revenue and expense and NOI, so it's cap rate only. And the appendix, we have the decisions when we mutual board where they give a premium for social housing. So that would be my report.
Thank you. Mr. Brokus, questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just a couple. On your page 9, you've got an adjustment, or you've made an adjustment to the cap, putting a 0.5 point premium. Did you inspect this property at all?
Nope.
Were you aware that the units had been refreshed?
I do know what the MHRC spent some money on their properties as they go along, but they always keep it as government housing, so that's lower quality materials.
Oh, okay. So you,
Still no AC. I'm not saying it's never got any updates as just turnover in apartments. They do have updates, maybe not as often as the market, private market. And they tend to do it in big lumps. So they tend to neglect properties for a long time, put in a big lump, and then they continue with the way they manage, doing less on turnover than they would in the private market.
okay. And then just in regards to the overall area, Broadway, Assiniboine, would you say that this area is superior to the Sherbrooke Ellis area in regards to tenant demand, overall safety, attractiveness for potential tenants? Or would you say it's the same, or would you say it's worse?
Downtown area is better than the West End, but not as good as the suburbs. Suburbs will be a lot safer than being in downtown.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Branson?
No
Any
questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Upton?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. Summation, Mr. Assessor?
No, if I could take a 5-minute break after this one, that'd be great, though.
Yeah. Mr. Dupont, summation?
None.
Okay. Mr. Robertson, if you would, please, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. I'll call the meeting back to order. We'll deal with item number 7 on our docket, which is 300 Assiniboine. When you're ready, please, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you.
Okay, no problem. File number 22-2519, roll number 12097774700, 300 Assiniboine Avenue. We've got another multi-use apartment. So 2 income streams for the commercial, we've got 562,000, and then for the residential, we've got 56,898.
56 million, sorry.
56 million. Thank you. 898. So it's 25 stories. It's built in 2016. 234 suites, 231 indoor parking spots. Reinforced concrete frame. Page 2 shows that they've been good with requests for income information. Page 3, income value summary is found. So we've got 116 1-bedrooms and 118 2-bedrooms. Average monthly rent of $1,882.29. So for the workups here, you can see that there's a 15% vacancy on this property. I actually put this property on the roll when it was completed a few years ago. And so the reason why it has a 15% vacancy on it is that it's a very large building, and it was taking longer than anticipated to lease up. By the end of 2018, it was still 70% vacant. And then it stepped down to end of 19, it was 55% vacant. And then 2020, it was down to 33% vacant. So in order to capture that potential risk with a slower than normal lease up, a 15% vacancy override was put onto it. So that's where that is captured. That's where that's captured out of. So expense ratio is modeled 39% for a new building, which, keep in mind, sat mostly vacant for the past couple of years before stepping down into getting closer to market vacancy. 39% expense ratio. You think after those units were built, if there's nobody in those units, then there's nobody in there potentially damaging those units, wearing those units out. Those units were sitting vacant and brand new. So a 39% expense ratio, it's normal, I would say. I know when we put this on the roll, we negotiated an expense ratio that was even lower with office ahead of time. So our capitalization rate, 4.8. So keeping in mind that the only in pandemic stabilized cap rate we have, 2390 McPhillips, stabilized per my calculations at 4.79. We're sitting here at 4.8. That one was out on North McPhillips and north of Leela. However, so it is a different area. That being said, that's the only sale that we have that occurs within the pandemic economic situation, which I have to repeat. The city of Winnipeg delayed the reference date for that reason. So that more weight is put on that sale. So if we got some sales at 5% prior to that, but there's a drop inside of the pandemic, it should be in line and weight would be placed on that sale. That's what I'm doing. I hope that makes sense to you guys. We got our commercial work up here. That's all modeled on that. And then on page 4, you can see the vacancy. These vacancy rates, what I was referencing, the applicants and I don't have any dispute in regards to the overall vacancy, not the stabilized, but the historic amount of vacancy. So you can see it stepping down. You know, it was only open for 3 months in 2017. So they were still pretty vacant. And you can see that they've had to increase it would seem that increasing the leasing incentives has pushed the vacancy downwards. So yeah, 15% vacancy override remains. For the commercial, we've got rents in the $16.50 to $18 range for the 2 units, the smaller unit getting the higher rent per square foot. Rent comparables found on page 6. I was looking for newer buildings, nice buildings in the downtown area, comprised of 1 and 2 bedroom units. So 1882 falls just outside the range. However, it's new. It's right on the river. It overlooks the Red River. If you ever been down the Fork skating trail, you can see it on the north side. It's a nice building. I've been inside of it, inspected it. Comparable leases are found on page 7. So they range from $14 to $21, so quite a large range. The smaller units here seem to have higher rents on a net rent per square foot basis. So it looks like our model rents fall within that range, so no change was made in that behalf. Cap rate chart on page 8 again, 2390 McPhillips. 4.8, pretty much just what we have for this one. And then we have our cap rate chart. We've got the page 11. We've got the construction permit, permit value, total project value, 60 million. Cost basis. Now we're not calculating value on costs, but it is pretty similar to our $57,460,000 assessment for 2023. So we have our income statement, which follows. And then page 20, sorry, page 24 onwards just shows the interior pictures. This is just taken from the website. There are some townhouse style units as well on the main floor. So we are pretty similar in terms of effective gross income. There's just a slight disagreement in regards to the extent of the vacancy override. And then our expenses do differ. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessment?
Yes, you compare the cap rates at 2390 McPhillips, and I'm going through your rebuttal. Built in 2015 and 2017, it had the 0.5% vacancy. Then after that, 0.5%, 2%. So would you agree that the subject is not similar to that property because that property had really good lease up?
Yeah, they might have pre-leased that property ahead of time. That might not have been something that this property did. However, this property is leasing up. I would say it's got more units, I believe, than 2390 McPhillips, so it's going to take longer. But it was leased up much quicker. There's no argument there.
Now, on the suburbs, the properties that newer properties we've seen, would you agree with me? Some of them I saw leased up in 9 to 12 months. Would you agree that 1 year is usually the lease up period for suburban?
Yeah, definitely. And we do have a vacancy override for that reason, to capture the fact that in this basis that it is taking longer to do. Just don't want to double adjust by adjusting the cap rate.
Would you agree that it'd be a risk to a buyer to buy something that's having a hard time leasing up and you're still 33% vacant?
I would say that it's leasing up slower than typical, and that's why we have a vacancy. The risk is reflected in the vacancy. It's either good if I didn't reflect it in the vacancy, then yes, I would have boosted the cap rate. But it's reflected in the vacancy, so I'm just putting a market cap rate on it. I don't want to double count.
And why should you not adjust for the risk? The risk is maybe different factors than actual vacancy. You stabilize your vacancy at whatever level. And why would that prevent you from adjusting the cap rate?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, because it's not going to be like, it's going to get to a point where it's going to be full. Like, look at the rate that it's filling up. So it went down from 18 to 19. It dropped what, 20%, 15%, 15%. And then it dropped like another 20% from 19 to 20. So it is trending downwards. At a price tag of $57 million, this is a long-term investment. This isn't like a buy and flip. So like a purchaser, while a purchaser might suggest that, saying that, oh, I want a 20% vacancy due to the risk. And I also want to boost the cap up. The vendor isn't going to agree because the vendor is going to say, well, in a year or two, or because it's going to be in the short term, when it is, fully leased up, what's that property going to be worth? Like they know it's not going to run based on its lease up history. It is trending downwards. It's not going to run at 20% vacancy continuously. However, to recognize the fact that it's a big one. It's taking longer to lease up than a suburban newer property. No argument there. That's a fact. We included a higher vacancy just to encapsulate that potential risk. Say it stops leasing up. But we're not going to change the cap rate again when that's already addressed because the risk is reflected in the vacancy rate. If I just put market vacancy on it, recognizing that it's a long-term investment, I would definitely adjust the cap rate, but I wouldn't do both.
Now, would you agree that 4.8%, below 5% is on the low side compared to other newer apartments?
Other newer apartments, no, I think we're around, like most of the new ones were below 5%. And we have McPhillips at 4.8. So I think we're bang on for this one.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, questions?
No question.
Mr. Upton?
No, I don't have any, thank you.
I have no questions. So, Mr. Dupont, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
I also file a separate report called apartment vacancy, apartments downtown vacancy. I'm just wondering if we can go to that first.
No, it's.
Downtown area.
I have that one immediately following Mr. Applicant's brief on this property. So at number 7.
Yeah.
Right after, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's item number 7 still, but it's the next one down.
Yeah, apartments downtown vacancy. I do have that.
I got it.
Do you want to address that first, Mr. Dupont?
Yes,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It pertains to the vacancy and the cap rate. And, so I'd like to go through that. So we start the first paragraph. The purpose of this report would be applying a market vacancy of 7.5% for apartments in downtown due to 3 reasons. Higher vacancy rate in downtown area in general. She has a vacancy rate of 7.5 for the Centennial area. 2 is a slower absorption rate of new inventory. So downtown is slower absorption than the suburbs. And number 3, safety due to crime and poverty in the downtown area. Drug addiction problems also downtown area. So I would say that the properties in the suburbs are doing a lot better than new apartments downtown or apartments downtown altogether. The next part, we have current pending inventory. We show the statistics, the neighborhoods that we have, but we have the maps. And City of Winnipeg is their own city center. Now, there's a small dispute here and there. I believe the city does not have the civic area where their city hall is in the downtown. They don't have the legislative area. And likely there's no apartments there, but for some reason they say it's not part of the downtown. 4 apartments. But we kept track ourselves at Altus, and we found that it was 10,819 apartment rentals in downtown area for the reassessment. 813 were new, recent additions, and the permits pulled as of April 1st, 2021 shows another 916 units are expected to come. So the stock should come in with 1 to 2 years after a permit. CMHC data. According to CMHC market rental report as of January 2021, all overall vacancy rate as of October 2020 was 3.8 in overall Winnipeg. But in Zone 2, which is Centennial, which covers the downtown city center, vacancy was much higher at 7.5. That Centennial area, you'll see with the maps, it goes also towards the north, so it includes some areas I mentioned in the second paragraph. I believe they understate the downtown vacancy because they include the northwest portions, which have less bills and generally lower rents. So they follow a leg along Notre Dame Avenue all the way to Keewatin. So the undefined downtown area would exclude that leg of Notre Dame. We'd be closer to the assessor's city center. CMHC report says the vacancy rate for new units was 7.4%, which would suggest that newer projects are being absorbed at a slower rate. And we show crime statistics after that also. The CMHC appendix, we have the page 5, the CMHC area. So number 2, it shows there. So it catches the downtown, but it has a leg that goes along Notre Dame. So the description, Zone 2 is on the next page, page 5. The city multifamily market regions is number 8. They have the numbers there, 170, and they exclude 166 is excluded in yellow. That's the legislative area, and then they exclude towards the north, Chinatown and Civic area. And I believe that should be part of downtown, but in the end, it does not make that much difference. So the next page, we have a close-up of the city. So they miss 172, 173, and 176 that we have. And then there's another map that they have, and it shows close-up. It shows the areas 172 is Chinatown, and 173 Civic Center. 166 is legislature. The city, I believe, has 167 Colony, which has a little bump that goes past the bay. We would agree with that, the city adding that as part of the city center. We have some more statistics and crime and all that. Basically, it's CMHC has recognized higher vacancy in Centennial, slower absorption of new apartments in downtown, and the subject has high vacancy, very, very slow lease up, terrible lease up actually. So if you want to go back to my page 13 of the income approach that we have. So 2017 is only 3 months. 2018, the average for the whole year is 71%. Most properties in the suburbs would be fully rented by the end of the first year. And here there was 71%. So the 2019, they dropped the rent some more and they put in huge discounts. So the line 3, the potential market rents decreased. In 2020, they dropped the rents a little bit more and they increased the discounts and made the potential market rents lower again. So they have to combat the vacancy somehow, and then they do that by decreasing the potential market rents. But doing those changes, which in effect lowers their rent, they still have 33% vacancy as of 2020, the end of 2020. So we allowed 20% vacancy. The assessor allows 15.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dupont, are you now in your primary report?
Yes, I am. Oh, yeah.
Give us a moment to get there, please.
Page 13 spreadsheet, sorry.
Hang on. Okay, everybody's on the primary report. Mr. Upton, Ms. Branson.
Yeah,
Okay, so the line one shows the potential gross rents going down and the discounts going up. So in essence, the potential market rents is decreasing in line 3. So we stabilize at the 2020 potential gross market rents. But the vacancy was 70.1% the first year after lease up, 55% the second year, 33% third year, which is a very, very slow lease up. I don't think I've seen that slow of a lease up for any of the suburban properties that I've seen that looked at. So we stabilized at 20% vacancy. The city recognized they had a problem. Also, they stabilized at 15%. And then we add the laundry and the parking. And so line 13, we're 4,000,421, the assessor 4,492. So we end up being similar. Mainly we have higher vacancy, was offset by the laundry parking income. Then we stabilize normal way, actual insurance, utilities, the average for professional fees, office, sundry. The thing to look at maybe is the repair and maintenance. So it had 234,000, 312, 321 for repair and maintenance for those 3 years. We stabilized at 290, which is very close to the 3-year average. And we have the actual details on the next page. So that's 1243 per suite. And the caretaker actual, which is relatively low. Likely some of that is taken out in the discounts. Commercial expense as a recovery, we exclude that. And we show the actual taxes. And so our NOI, 2,460,000 versus the assessor 2,731,000. We're about 300,000 lower than the assessor. So part of that is the expenses. We're 200,000 higher than the expenses. 70,000 lower in income. So the cap rate we apply is 5.5. I say Altus cap rate 5.25 for that age group plus 0.25% premium. Remarks difficult to rent up due to high rents. Yeah, I should show that the rents is 1776, line 3. So they went up and they started off with high rents. A lot of the newer properties in the suburbs, I've seen some in the 1500s, 1600s. So here they started off with higher rents. They're now down to 1776. They probably have to go down some more to get stabilized. And the fact it's downtown is less desirable than the suburbs due to the crime that they have downtown. So then the remarks at the bottom says risk of future discounts or future rent reductions. The commercial assessment is undisputed. The next page, the repair and maintenance. have to rotate that. It shows the breakdown of all the repair maintenance. So we stabilize part of the roof. The roof repairs allowed usually, not roof replacement. So already, even though it's a new building, that roof repairs, we have allowed that. We've allowed the guests furnished, the expenses for that because we allowed the guests furnished income. Parkade expenses we allow, it's relatively stable over the years. The flooring is very low, it's $400 average, so virtually none. It's only $2 per suite. So that's going to go up in the future. The flooring repairs only $3 per suite. The appliance is very low, only 20 per suite. So those are still very low, and they're spending money elsewhere. The counters and cupboards is also very low at $18. So where they spend a little bit of money is electrical, plumbing, HVAC, elevator. Elevator is quite consistent over the years. Then they have remaining R&M, all the other items we stabilize at 3-year average. So we stabilize at $12.43 per suite for repair maintenance. So I believe that's our value. That would be my report.
Thank you. Mr. Brokus, questions for the applicant?
Yes, please. So, so just starting with the vacancy amount, use 20%. You think the vendor would agree to selling the property at a stabilized income using 20% vacancy on the long term?
That's what I'm saying.
All right. Do you think it would be 20% on the long term?
No, that's why I stabilize that based on the actual vacancy. That's a vacancy problem. We have to allow for that. So 33% vacancy as of the reference date. So allowing 20% is reasonable.
You weren't tempted to adjust it to 7.5 based on the CMHC report you presented?
That's the average vacancy for all properties, including those that have been built a long time ago. So this is newer build with very slow lease up. And part of that is it has high rent. So I think that they will likely have to reduce their rent. So that's part of the vacancy risk also. So I allow the actual rents that they are asking at that point in time, but being higher, it will likely be a combination of rent reduction and vacancy. And it's 20%.
Okay. So looking at your expenses here, I noticed, I'm just a little confused. We got 2 lines here. You got line 15 for management fee, 82,000 in 2018, 122,000 in 19, and now 167,000, and it jumps to 221,057 dollars. That's because that's 5% of the effective gross income, correct?
Yeah, that's what we agree, and this is owner managed.
Yep, and we can agree that's typically what management runs at.
That's right.
No argument there. So one line that we typically don't see completed in the workups, well, it's just not filled out, is this line 18, wages and benefits. It says 61,000, 62,000, and 66,000. How does that differ from management?
there was a hearing in 2018, 2019, where the assessor was arguing that admin fees, wages and benefits should be lumped in with management. It would actually disappear. And the municipal board ruled in my favor that we should be stabilizing wages and benefits. And because even if you had an outside manager, they would not absorb that. So these are the leasing fees that they have when they have a large property like that. They usually have a leasing office, leasing fees, and that's not picked up by the management.
Which property was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I believe it's 200 Ronald.
So just, okay, so
So
You got-
it was all large properties will have leasing office with staff to have that to administer. And so I stated with large properties, the leasing office and their staff should be allowed as an expense. The municipal board agreed with me in that particular decision.
so that's for large properties only?
Well, that particular case was a large property, so one of the courts of St. James, where they tend to have leasing offices, and I had comparables of a dozen or 2 dozen of large properties where the manager was arm's length, and the manager got their 5%, and the owner still had to pay the wages and benefits for the leasing office. But I'm not saying that wage and benefits will not exist for smaller properties. They would also. I'm just saying we should just not erase those costs by saying you should be part of management.
So
And the
for,
caretaker is really, really low, 12,000. So they could have part of the caretaker in that line 18 also.
so just so I'm clear, for 2018, or rather 2020, we've got the wages and benefits at 66,256. On the income and expense mailer, which begins on page 27. Now, I'm not trying to like belabor this point. I just, can you tell me which line items were added up to come up to that wages and benefits amount? Because I know there's some lines that says resident manager contract, resident manager, WCB, resident manager bonus. It just seems that would all fall into management. So can you give any clarification in regards to how you came to that figure?
I guess I can go to my the spreadsheet itself will show what figures we had, so I have to find the spreadsheet. Okay, for the 66,246, we had 58,480 plus 1198. So
Okay, so for 58,480, that's resident manager, is it not? On page 27, wouldn't that fall into management? I just noticed when we add those two lines together, if we didn't stabilize management at 5, that would come up to about 5%. I'm just wondering if there's not some stuff typically encompassed in a 5% management fee that the owner is doing themselves in wages and benefits in the form of like a resident manager, for instance.
As per 200 Ronald, they usually have a resident manager and they don't call them a caretaker. Caretaker mainly is people that come and clean. They do the cleaning, the corridors and snow, and the resident managers manages the apartments without doing the hard work. So when you have larger properties, they have caretakers as well as resident manager. And they live there in one of the suites, just like a caretaker does. That's not management, that's resident. That's in-house costs, and that the municipal board had said all in-house costs should be considered.
So in your opinion, you're saying a resident manager isn't a management fee? Just to be clear.
Oh, it certainly is not, especially if it's resident. It's not a manager that's going there to live there. I mean, managers are offsite, so that it's not an offsite cost. If it were an offsite cost, then you could have maybe an argument, but it's an on-site cost.
Okay, and then let me just see what else. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Branson, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Upton.
Yeah, just your on your chart, your circular, your expenses for 2020. Are those all actuals? Are those all actual?
Yes, yeah, I'm stabilizing the actuals in the 3 years.
Okay, and then you stabilized after that. Okay, thank you.
And you're in agreement with the commercial component, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Desire for summation, Mr. Assessor?
I just think we disagree in regards to how a resident manager is treated. If you added the wages and benefits to the actual wage and benefits to the actual management fee, it would come up to around 5%. So I think to include that wages and benefits and then also jump the management fee another 50 grand. There's something that's not typical there. So I wouldn't include that line. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, summation?
Oh, I feel really, really strongly that resident managers should be added. It's not a good argument whatsoever. We fought that at the municipal board very recently at 200 Ronald. The assessor was saying admin, office and leasing, this should be part of the managers. And we had comparables of outside managers or arm's length managers that did not absorb that cost at the leasing office. A resident manager, somebody that lives there, that's a fancy name for caretaker. So that it's totally wrong to say that should not be included. That's something I would never agree on, especially now that we have a precedent supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will bring us to our last item on the docket. This one, Mr. Dupont, also has liability and classification. Are those still in contention?
I don't even know why it was. So I didn't make an argument, and possibly there was a tenant there that they thought we should be. So I just asked you to confirm those two. I can't withdraw because I don't know what it's about.
Okay, so then that means we'll just deal with the classification and liability, or sorry, the quantum, the classification liability
you're requesting to confirm. So, Mr. Assessor, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence, please.
Okay, sounds good. So let me push through this quickly. All right. Okay, last one. Roll number 120927680000 55 Cary Street, Fort Garry. File number 22-1705. We've got 3 lines of valley. We've got some commercial tax exempt area. We have some regular commercial area, and we also have residential 2 apartment area, which comprises the majority of the assessment. Unless anything's changed, just glancing ahead, I don't think the applicant's actually disputing the CC 20 residential 2 or residential 20. So I won't spend too much time on that. It's a residential downtown, 20 stories, 86 to 88 on the build. Downtown living is the zoning, construction class B, reinforced concrete frame. So we've got a few different lines on the, where is it? I'm trying to find. We've got OFB, we've got restaurant, we've got parking, we've got retail, and we've got OFB exempt. So we've got quite a few different commercial streams to address, so that's why that there are several different commercial lease comparables. So our restaurant lease comparables in the downtown area, they range from $9 to $19. The OFB lease comparables, you got a bigger list of those. They range from $9.20 to $15 in the South Broadway, Broadway, Centerville, and South Portage general area. Our retail lease comparables, the majority of them are between $10 and $14. There's 2 outliers higher. There's one 15 gram and 33 Hargrave at $20.55. That is found on page 5. We've got our multifamily rent comparables on page 6. Average monthly rent per unit coming in at $980, which is below the 4 comparables. However, that is that's on dispute. So I'm not going to really talk about it anymore. So for the modeled assigned rates for the OFB, there's a whole list of them here. This is not an easy property at all to assess. We've got lower rates assigned to these OFBs on a net basis. Most of them are in the $7 range, $6 to $7 range. If you go to the OFB lease comparables on page 4, you can see we're about half on modeled compared to what the area lease comparables are listed at. The exposure is not as good. These are within this gigantic building. That would be the case. Why we're also aware, as per the mailer, that they're not getting those rates on the OFB lease comparables. So the actuals were taken into consideration. That's why we ask for mailers every year. So flipping back to, sorry, what's the next one? On page 10, we've got the restaurant. So we got 3 restaurant premises. And we're in the $6 to $9 range. That's page 10. Going back to page 3, our restaurant lease comparables, they range from, well, they're kind of all over the map. There's one at $9, then there's one at 16, and then there's 2 at 19. So again, we're much lower. The exposure is not as good as other typical commercial areas. So this thing is kind of like onto its own. So we know the actuals, what they're getting is less. So we want to reflect that by lowering the income quality in the property. So we're trying to be fair. Parking. So the parking structure, annual net rent $441 on page 11. You go to page 11, please. That's what the model is assigning the parking. So when we compare it to what they're reporting for commercial parking revenue on page 19, commercial parking is actually 521,299. So we're quite a bit lower at 441 on our model valuation. So I didn't see a need to change that because we're much lower, about 80 grand lower. And then for retail on page 12, most of the rents, I mean, some of these are like kiosk, really tiny rents, tiny leasable areas. They range mostly in the, $7 to $9 range within the really tiny kiosks. So looking at the retail rents on this, on page 5, we're mostly in the $10 to $14 range. So we're below that as well. And my comments in regards to exposure extend to the retail as well. So Dill modeled on this one. You can see the pictures on beginning on page 25. It's again, it's one of these buildings that's kind of its own environment. It's got a lot going on it. So you got some exterior pictures. If you scan 24, 25, looks like they have a nice little courtyard on page 26. And then they had advertising the units on page, beginning on page 26 onwards. It doesn't look like they've had any renovations done to them. It still looks, late 80s, early 90s in there. Hence the lack of effective age. An effective age is not warranted on this property on the residential side. So, and just some pictures ended. So basically it's a tough one to assess and review, especially given the lack of time that we have to address these properties. So just, looking at the lease comparables compared to what the model is assigning them, it looks like we're lower than the comparables, and we should be. And the residential is not in dispute. So I didn't make any changes to it. That's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, questions for the assessor?
So you did not use any of the site-specific rents on the commercial to determine the market rent, is that correct?
That's correct.
No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Bronson,
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Upton,
No, none for me, thanks.
And I have no questions. So, Mr. DuPont, we'll hear your evidence when you're ready, please.
We have a really large appendix, report 130 pages. We have tons of information, rent rolls. Some of the rent rolls don't show whether it's gross or semi-gross, and some rent rolls will show whether it's gross or not. So we got the information from many places. The 2020 assessment was settled at the municipal board. I've been doing this property now for a few years, so 2018, 2016, etc. So it does have lower rent than a lot of the other properties. It's mixed with apartments and commercial. So you don't have the same exposure as being part of an office building. So we certainly have to go with site specific on this. So 2020, we settled the commercial at 13,084,000. The 60E doesn't matter that much because it ends up being exempt. So if we go to page 12, these are the expenses that we had used for the 2020, and the subsequent financial statements did not make a breakdown between residential and commercial. So they were not as good to calculate the cost. And I assume that if we had to, we could potentially force the owner to give us a breakdown, but I don't know if we could. Anyways, we use the same expenses as we had used for 2020. So the overall expense for commercial was 762. Then we show some as to what the utilities are and what the taxes, so that somebody that pays their own utilities would have less costs than the 762. And so we use that for each and every tenant that we have based on what we had. So in the rent roll notes, so that page 13, it shows what kind of lease it has, whether it's gross plus hydro or totally gross, etc. It shows the unrecovered expenses on the second last column. So we show the contract rents, and then we show the net rent that we use to stabilize. Now on the retail, we have 5616 square feet, and the assessor at the bottom the page is 7016 square feet. They have 949 per square foot rent. We have 1133, so we have higher rent than the assessor. We agree with their cap rate, 7.2. Shortfall, we use the 7.62, the expenses. In 2020, when we settled, it's shown at the bottom there, we settled at 7.62 shortfall. And we had settled 7.9% cap rate on the municipal board. And now we're agreeing to a lower cap rate. So that takes care of the retail. The next part, page 14, is the start of the normal offices, not the exempt ones. And you'll see it, a lot of the vacant ones that we are allowing $7 per square foot. They have quite a few vacant. And the far right says also as to whether it was gross or not. So we have some of the actual leases, and when they are higher, we use those. Canadian Life is comes to $438 per square foot. Small, 476 square feet. So we go through the list, and then quite a bit of vacancy. At 7%, we have some of the actual leases also. some are higher, some are lower. So in the end, we stabilized 148,702 square feet, 588. Now, some of those spaces are unfinished. They're used as storage. And they have some for storage so that on every floor, not every floor, but a lot of the floors, they have some storage available. And so we use the 11% vacancy, same as the assessor. The assessor has 734 rent, it shows at the bottom of the page. They had 140,000 in the area for the city. We have higher leasable area, 148,702. We have less per square feet, 588. And we have shortfall, 762, the assessor's at 12. So we're a lot less shortfall than the assessor. No, this time the assessor is 6.75 cap rate. We're at 7.25. And the 2020 settlement on municipal board was settled at 7.25 cap rate. So we believe the cap rate 6.75 is too low for the assessor. Then the next one is the OFB. You shouldn't say exempt, but when it says COW, City of Winnipeg, those are all exempt. Net contract rents that they have is around $14.50 per square foot. Their expenses at $570, and because they don't have any tax to pay, the other expenses they don't pay is $570. So the average rent that they got is $880. So the second page of this. So our rent is 85,000 square feet at 872. The assessor is 90,000 at 688. So we have more rent per square foot, but less rentable area. Shortfall, the assessor uses 12. We use 762. Because if there were a normal property that went vacant, then the owner would be liable for the taxes. The city of Winnipeg is not liable for taxes, but the owner would be if the space went vacant. 2020 settlement, we settle at 7.5 cap rate. The assessor is now 6.75, so we are at 7.5 again cap rate. For 2020, we had 91,000 square feet for the city of Winnipeg. Now we have less, 85,000. I was going to the rent roll, identifying which ones are. And we have more regular office than the city offices than the city had. The next one is the restaurants. The actual rents that they have, Prairie 360 is 553. The base rent is only 553, and they don't pay expenses. So the net rent they actually pay is 58 cents per square foot. We allow their face rent per square foot. And the friendly diner, the actual net rent comes to 213. We allow 5. Kelly's Cafe, the net rent amounts to 438. We allow 5, so we're allowing higher. We allow 15% vacancy, which is the same as the assessor. We have the same rentable area as the assessor. The assessor has 637 rent, so we are 544. We have slightly lower rent. Assessor shortfall is 8. We're 762, so we have less shortfall. Assessor's cap rate is 6.95, and we're 7.5. And 2020 was settled at 7.5 cap rate. Then the next income stream is the parking. That is taken straight from the financial statements. They show the commercial parking separately. That includes the casual parking that they get as well as the rental. 521,000 is the amount they get. We allow 40% expense ratio, which is standard. So it comes to 312 NOI, and we stabilize at 7% cap rate. The city has 441,000 in income, net income, which is much higher than us. They have the same cap rate. Now we settled 2020 at 236,000. That was the net. We're now at 208. We had settled at 7.9% cap rate. That was undisputed, so that was a settlement. So then we have the spreadsheet of all the income streams. We have the 5 income streams. We'll add them all up. So we see we end up at 21,517,000, and the assessors at 24,851,000. And we have each one. So the first one is the retail, where some 36, the assessors 802. The next one's OFB, we're at 8,002,000, the assessors 10. The OFB 60E, we have a higher value than the assessor, 7,002,000 versus the assessor 61. The assessor had lower rents, we had higher square footage. A restaurant were lower than the assessor 812 versus 1142. The parking lot was 4,004,000 versus the assessor 6,003,000. Now the appendix. Take my, I'd like to find the parking. It's not numbered, but it's very close. After the questionnaire itself, they have the income statement. So they show residential parking, 578,000. They have commercial revenue. They have commercial revenue totally separate. They don't have the expenses separate, but they have the revenue separate. So they had total commercial rent, total vacancy. They had 776,000, which is quite high. Then they have the discounts. They have storage rent that they've shown. Then other revenue, they have a parking commercial 356, and parking hospitality 73, parking casual 117. And then they had a validation refund. So the total commercial parking revenue is 521,299. That's straight up from their financial statements. That's after adding the hospitality casual validation refund that they have for some of their commercial tenants, which would be likely the restaurant. So that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Brokus, questions for the applicant?
Yes, please. So just on the parking, because that's where we stopped last time. So it has reported on page 25 of the applicant's brief. It's got parking. He's noted the reported commercial parking 521,299, and the net operating income he's assigned to the parking is 312,779. I'm just wondering where that, the $210,000 worth of parking expenses are in the mailer, maybe he can elaborate where he got to that. I think it's about 40% expense ratio on the parking. I'm wondering if he can give us a little more clarity of where the expenses came from.
That's a normal ratio that we use for all parking, so that the assessor for downtown parking, they get the actual rent that they're advertising, and then they allow 40% expense ratio. So that's the standard rate that the city employs to establish parking downtown.
Okay. So I'm just combing through the expenses. Do they actually spend 40%, or do they spend more or less, or do you not know?
I don't know. It's an allowance. We know the gross income they get, and that's what we use. Then we use a city's expense ratio for parking lots.
Okay. And parking. So just, okay. And our park, I'm not that familiar with parking, so that maybe I'm just belaboring it too much, but like on my parking stream, it doesn't have any expenses. But you're saying 40% is what's typically used?
Yes, what the city uses. So we do that often with our own commercial. We'll take the parking revenue, and the parking cost is usually mixed with the rest of the building, and we use 40%.
Okay. Okay, and then just in regards to, it's on your page 40. Something interesting I noticed. This property, it's about, it's like right across the street, not right across the street, but it's about 120 meters from 300 Assiniboine. Would you agree it's same neighborhood, same everything in that regard? Same neighborhood anyway, outside influences?
Yes.
Okay, so I did notice that the residential vacancy, once you factor out the discounts, comes to about 2.7%. Would you agree with that?
Residential vacancy. I have to open my spreadsheet. We have a 2.6%. They have 10 million in rents and 1 million in discounts. So they're dropping their rents because they have to put in discount. And the average rent is $8.89, which is about half of what 300 Assiniboine is trying to charge.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bronson, questions?
No questions, thanks.
Mr. Upton?
No, none for me, thanks.
I just want a little clarification, please. I know the exempt portion, your statement was it doesn't really matter because it's exempt, but we are dealing with total value here. And the assessor's at 126,437,000. You're at 123,103. And in that, you have a higher exempt portion or a higher exempt amount than the assessor. So I just wonder how you arrived at your exempt value.
We took each and every lease that was a city in Winnipeg. So we identify that, and that changes over time. So then we applied their market rents, which comes to $8.80 per square foot. So the value we establish in the end is not taxable, but we have to have the proper amount that's exempt and the proper amount that's not exempt.
Right, so the amount that was exempt was based on government leases, which are higher than the rest of the leases, is that correct? Is that how you come up with a higher value for the exempt portion?
The assessor has, I have in the bottom of the page, my analysis, they have rent of $6.88 per square foot for the city of Winnipeg. We have $8.80. So we have $2 more per square foot market rent. And yet we have about 5,000 lesser square feet than the assessor.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Barocas, desire for summation on this final property?
In regards to the final property, no, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, any summation on this property?
Yes, we went site specific on these commercial rents. And we should be using those. It's complicated, but 2020, we settled at the municipal board based on those particular rents, or the same method used. So I suggest that we should go with the values that I have here because we're being site specific. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we have heard all the items on the agenda today, so I will adjourn the hearing. Thank you very much for your presentations today.